Have you noticed that your body changes completely right after orgasm? The penis goes soft, the heart slows down, the body relaxes, but inside, something much deeper is happening. The pleasure you feel is just the tip of the iceberg. Behind that sense of relief, there's a chemical whirlwind, a huge effort and, above all, a silent request from the body, I need a break. What many people don't understand is that orgasm is one of the most intense moments the male body can experience, and even though it lasts only a few seconds, it demands more than you imagine. During climax, the heart races, blood pressure rises, and the brain releases a sequence of hormones that put the entire body on alert. It's as if every organ worked at maximum capacity to sustain that instant of pleasure. The brain fires off dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and adrenaline, a mix that triggers euphoria and relaxation at the same time. But as soon as it all ends, the body has to switch off this emergency system. That's when exhaustion, sleepiness, apathy, or that strange feeling of emptiness many men sense right after ejaculating show up. The body tries to recover, but you don't always notice. The heart is still fast, blood pressure takes minutes to return to normal, and the brain needs to rebalance all the neurotransmitters it just dumped. That's why the post-orgasm period feels like a mix of peace and fatigue. The body got what it wanted, but now it has to reorganize. The problem starts when this cycle happens many times in short periods. Without recovery time, the body begins to send subtle signs of wear, loss of focus, irritability, low energy, and even mood changes. Pleasure becomes more of a drain than a recharge. And the most curious part is that your body warns you, but you ignore it. Every feeling of fatigue, every discomfort after climax is a biological reminder that you're pushing the system beyond what it can handle. I'm Emily Collins, a urologist, and I want to show you what your body tries to tell you every time you reach orgasm. Pleasure is a gift, but also a warning, and when you understand this message, you learn to have more energy, focus, and control over yourself. But before we continue, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, because here I talk about male sexuality with a scientific basis, in a direct and no taboo way. And tell me in the comments, how do you feel right after orgasm, relaxed or depleted? Orgasm is one of the most intense biological responses the male body can experience. In a few seconds, all systems, circulatory, nervous, muscular, and hormonal, kick into action. The heart speeds up, blood is redirected, the brain releases a powerful chemical surge, and the muscles contract forcefully. On the outside, it looks like pleasure, on the inside, it's a true physiological storm. It all begins with rising arousal. As the penis fills with blood, the sympathetic nervous system, the same one that kicks in during danger, starts commanding the body. Heart rate climbs to over 140 beats per minute, blood pressure shoots up, and the whole body prepares for the moment of release. It's as if the organism were running a short marathon. At the peak, the brain releases extremely high levels of dopamine, responsible for the sensation of pleasure and reward. At the same time, a wave of adrenaline appears, intensifying heart rate and boosting blood flow to muscles and the genitals. This combination creates what we call a pleasure short circuit. The body reaches maximum tension and then lets everything go at once. During ejaculation, muscle contractions become automatic. The prostate, testicles, and pelvic muscles work in sync to expel semen. Each contraction is controlled by the brain and consumes energy, oxygen, and nutrients. The cardiovascular system works at its limit, which is why the body often trembles, the face flushes, and breathing becomes rapid and irregular. Pleasure is actually the reflection of an intense effort that the body translates into well-being. Right after climax, the parasympathetic nervous system takes control. It's responsible for powering down the body, slowing the heart, and initiating recovery. This transition from high tension to total relaxation is so abrupt that the body experiences a sort of physiological blackout, relief, calm, and sometimes deep sleep. What many don't realize is that this spike followed by a drop has a cost. Every orgasm uses up vital energy, hormones, and neurotransmitters that the body needs to replenish. When there's enough time for recovery, that's healthy. But when the stimulus is repeated many times, the body starts to react, and that's when it tries to warn you that something isn't right. In the next step, I'll show you what happens to your body and brain right after pleasure, and why this post-orgasm phase is the moment when your body tries hardest to communicate with you. Right after orgasm, the male body enters a phase few understand but everyone feels, the hormonal drop. In a matter of seconds, the brain completely changes command. The nervous system, which was in maximum alert mode, begins to shut down gradually. The heart slows, blood flows more evenly again, and the body releases a wave of substances signaling, mission accomplished. Now it's time to rest. During climax, dopamine, the neurotransmitter responsible for motivation and pleasure, reaches its highest peak. But right afterward, the body releases a large amount of prolactin, the hormone that ends the arousal cycle. Its function is simple: reduce desire, produce satiety, and allow the body to recover. Only, along with this sense of calm comes a slight exhaustion. It's as if the brain had emptied all emotional energy at once. The dopamine drop is the main reason many men feel sleepy, low, or even irritable after ejaculating. Pleasure is replaced by a sense of chemical depletion. This change is natural, the body is trying to restore balance. But when the cycle repeats too often, the brain starts to lose sensitivity to dopamine, and pleasure begins to require ever stronger stimuli. It's the same mechanism as any other addiction: excess creates tolerance, and what used to bring satisfaction starts causing fatigue. Additionally, during the post-orgasm period, the body releases oxytocin and serotonin, substances that promote relaxation and well-being. That's why many men feel a near sedative tranquility after sex. However, this calm comes along with a temporary reduction in adrenaline and circulating testosterone. Metabolism slows, the body enters recovery mode, and the brain uses this moment to rebalance the nervous system. All of this is part of a protection mechanism. The body doesn't want to punish you for feeling pleasure, it wants to keep you from burning out. It's the same principle that makes muscles ache after a workout, it's the warning that you went to the limit. Orgasm, although pleasurable, is real biological effort, and the body needs time to put itself back together. But the problem is that many men ignore these signals and try to repeat the stimulus before the body has recovered. That's when chronic fatigue, irritability, and loss of sensitivity begin. And that's what I want to show you now, the moment when pleasure stops being pleasure and turns into depletion. Pleasure should be a source of energy. But when the body is pushed to the limit, it starts to react, and what used to be satisfaction turns into exhaustion. The problem isn't ejaculating, it's how often it happens. The male body needs time to recover between cycles, and when that pause is ignored, the organism enters a silent collapse. That's when pleasure begins to present the bill. During orgasm, the body spends a significant amount of physiological resources, vitamins, minerals, energy, and especially hormones. Testosterone and dopamine are drained at high levels, and prolactin takes their place to promote rest. The result is predictable: fatigue, apathy, and, over time, a slight loss of motivation. The brain, previously fueled by pleasure peaks, starts to miss stimulation, and the body gets stuck in a cycle of constant search for immediate satisfaction. When ejaculation is very frequent, especially without emotional involvement or recovery time, the brain adapts. It reduces the sensitivity of dopamine receptors, which means you need more stimulus to feel the same pleasure. And this affects not only libido, it affects mood, focus, sleep, and even physical stamina. The sensation is of always being tired, even after a good night's sleep. In the long term, this pattern causes what we call sexual fatigue. A man loses interest, erections get harder to achieve, and pleasure becomes mechanical. It's the body trying to protect itself from a cycle that burns energy faster than it can be replenished. On top of that, the nervous system goes into overload, dopamine plummets, cortisol, the stress hormone, rises, and the body starts associating pleasure with exhaustion. That's when the clearest warnings appear: irritability without reason, lack of concentration, reduced performance, and even physical discomfort in the pelvic area. These are signs that the body can't keep up and is asking for help. Pleasure turns into escape, and arousal into depletion. But your body is talking to you, all the time. It sends subtle signals, often ignored, that the system is at its limit. And it's precisely these signals I want to address now. Because understanding what your body tries to say after orgasm is the first step to regaining energy, focus, and balance. Your body talks to you all the time. The problem is that most men never learn to listen. After repeating intense cycles of pleasure and stimulation, the organism begins to send subtle signs that it's at the limit. These signs aren't random. They're biological messages silently saying, "I need a break." The male body is intelligent, and before it collapses, it tries to warn you. One of the first signs is constant fatigue. Even sleeping well, you wake up tired, without energy, as if the body hadn't recovered. This happens because the brain burns large amounts of dopamine and serotonin during orgasm and needs time to restock these neurotransmitters. When stimulation is excessive, the brain can't keep up, and the result is a fatigue no night's sleep seems to fix. Another sign is irritability. The swing between high dopamine and elevated prolactin creates a chemical imbalance that directly affects mood. A man begins to react with impatience, anxiety, and even lack of motivation. What used to be pleasure becomes frustration, and the body responds with muscle tension, mild low back pain, or pelvic discomfort, the physical reflex of an overloaded nervous system. The body also speaks through falling libido. As contradictory as it seems, ejaculating in excess can reduce sexual desire. It's the brain trying to protect itself from burnout. It reduces the sensitivity of pleasure receptors, making the drive temporarily dip. Additionally, blood flow to the penis can be affected, leaving erections weaker and less spontaneous. It's the body asking you to slow down. Other subtle symptoms include lack of focus, difficulty concentrating, and a slight sense of gloom or apathy. That's because dopamine, beyond regulating pleasure, also controls motivation. Without it, everything feels harder, from working to relating to others. And there's one more sign that almost no one associates with excessive pleasure: emotional tension. A man starts to feel that pleasure has lost its purpose. He ejaculates, but right after feels empty, guilty, or indifferent. That's the body trying to show that sexual energy was poorly managed, spent too quickly, without intention, without connection. These signs aren't weakness. They're defense mechanisms. When the body speaks, the goal isn't to punish but to preserve. Listening to these warnings and respecting your own rhythm is what separates an exhausted man from a balanced one. And that's exactly what I want to show you now: how to restore the balance between pleasure and energy by respecting the body's natural timing and turning orgasm into a healthy, revitalizing experience. Regaining balance between pleasure and energy isn't about abstinence, it's about awareness. The male body was made to experience pleasure, but it also needs time to restore itself. When you understand this cycle, you discover that orgasm can be a source of vitality, not exhaustion. It all starts with a simple principle: respect your own rhythm. First, give your body the time it needs to recover after ejaculation. For most men, the ideal interval ranges between 48 and 72 hours. That's how long the body generally takes to restore hormonal levels, rebalance dopamine, and renew semen. Respecting this window helps the body rebuild desire naturally, without overloading the nervous system. Second, take care of the basics: sleep, nutrition, and hydration. It may sound simple, but without them, the body can't produce testosterone and dopamine at healthy levels. Good sleep is libido's best ally. During deep sleep, the body regulates hormones, repairs tissues, and restores energy balance. A diet rich in zinc, magnesium, and healthy fats strengthens the hormonal system and improves mood. Another essential practice is learning to redirect sexual energy. Desire is one of the most powerful forces there is. And when it isn't squandered, it can be converted into focus, productivity, and presence. Physical activity, meditation, and even moments of introspection help channel this energy without having to suppress it. The secret isn't to retain, it's to transform. And here's a point many ignore: intention. The way you experience pleasure completely changes how the body reacts to it. When there's emotional connection, mindful touch, and real involvement, the brain releases oxytocin and serotonin more evenly, creating pleasure with less wear. But when the stimulus is mechanical, rushed, or purely visual, the brain responds with sharp peaks and drops. The body wants pleasure, but it also wants purpose. When you learn to listen to your own signals, orgasm stops being a mere discharge and becomes a celebration. And when pleasure is lived consciously, mood improves, drive increases, and the heart works in harmony with desire. And that's exactly what I want to cover in this video's conclusion, because orgasm isn't just pleasure, it's a message from your body about how you reliving. After understanding everything the body goes through during and after pleasure, it's clear that orgasm is much more than a moment of physical delight, it's a biological message. With every climax, your body talks to you, sending signals about your balance, your energy, and even your emotional state. The problem is that most men learn to hear only the pleasure, not the warning that follows it. Orgasm is a turning point. It shows how much your body can give, but also how much it needs to recover. It's your biology's loudest cry saying, "I'm alive, but I need a pause." When pleasure is lived consciously, it nourishes. When it's lived in a rush, it drains. And that difference defines not only your mood but also your health, your focus, and the quality of your life. The human body was designed for pleasure, but not for excess. When you respect the time between cycles, sleep well, eat properly, and experience desire with presence, the body responds with vitality. Testosterone stays stable, the brain produces dopamine in balance, and mood grows lighter. Pleasure stops being an escape and becomes strength. I'm Emily Collins, a urologist, and I see this every day in the clinic. Men who say they feel tired, irritable, and low energy, who, once they learn to respect their own bodies, rediscover pleasure as something healthy. They realize orgasm is a mirror, it reflects exactly how you're caring for yourself. If the body feels exhausted after pleasure, something needs adjusting. Your body speaks to you, and pleasure is one of the most sincere languages it uses. When you learn to listen, your relationship with desire changes completely. Orgasm stops being the end and becomes a sign of balance, a reminder that pleasure and health walk side by side. If you've made it this far, congratulations, it shows you truly want to understand your body and live pleasure consciously. Now, subscribe to the channel, because here I talk about male sexuality with a scientific basis, without taboo and with respect. Leave your like if this video made you reflect on your body and comment below, "My body speaks to me." And for those who stayed until the end, the next video is already on the screen. There I explain how to recover your sexual energy after orgasm and why this pause is essential to keep desire alive. Click and keep going with me, because understanding your body is the first step to caring for your potency.